This is a screen recording of the presentation that was given last week for Parent University. And in that presentation, we spent a lot of time talking about workflow, so how the teacher sends content to the students, how the students send content back, what's the difference between Schoology and PowerSchool, and how your kids are using Notability to communicate with their teachers and take notes. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the difference between PowerSchool and Schoology. PowerSchool is where your child gets their grades, where the teacher assesses the work that the child is doing and posts their grades. You as a parent can look here to find out exactly how your child is doing academically and what kind of progress they're making on their targets. Schoology is really the workflow part of it. So how the teachers create content, they send content to the students. The students then can take that content and they can open up the PDFs that the teacher will send into Notability. They'll work on it, and then they can upload it back to Schoology where they can turn in their homework. So that's the main difference. PowerSchool is grades, Schoology is classwork. First thing we're going to talk about is PowerSchool. Every child has the PowerSchool app on their iPad. We don't recommend using the PowerSchool app because we use standards-based reporting, and that app often has difficulty showing certain things regarding standards-based reporting. So what we're recommending is that parents use the website, and the website that you're going to go to is powerschool.kcsd96.org, and that's going to be where we recommend that you go to check your student grades. Some people may notice that the PowerSchool app does work. We just don't find that it works consistently, so we definitely would recommend you use the website. The important thing to understand here is every student had an app, I guess you could say, posted or pushed to their iPad. It's not really an app. What it is it's a shortcut to the internet site that looks like an app. So if every student looks on their iPad, they should see a yellowish-orange WebClip app, and that's really just a shortcut that takes them where they need to be to access PowerSchool access PowerSchool using Safari on their iPad. But you can use any web browser. The next thing we're going to look at is how they view how they can view their grades using the PowerSchool app. So here's a perfect example of what the PowerSchool interface looks like. The first thing that they're going to do is going to click on Grades and Attendance, and make sure you click on Standards Grades as opposed to Grades and Attendance. The Standards Grade tab will really show you a breakdown of how your child is doing in a particular class, in this case math. Once you click on that, you're going to notice that you have a screen that has all the courses, but you'll find that all of the grades where you would see T1 grades are aligned. Because of standards-based reporting, you're not going to see a grade there, but if you click on that line, it's a clickable link, it will take you to a breakdown of all of the standards and where your child stands in that class. So just because you see a line doesn't mean there's no content there. We recommend clicking on that line and it will open up a new window and it will show you exactly what you're looking for. The next thing we're going to talk about is Schoology. The main window of Schoology will show you recent activity. So anytime a teacher posts an assignment or a coach posts a grade or anything like that, that's going to be on that sort of front screen when you first get into it. Once you actually open up the app, you'll find that there's a notification window. So the notification icon in the upper left-hand corner, in this case you'll see it has two blue circles around it. If your student has notifications, or if a teacher has sent out information, there'll be a red box that tells you how many notifications are waiting. We recommend making sure that all students click on there. Yesterday I saw a child who had 28 different notifications that are waiting. So we recommend going ahead and clicking on that so the child knows when they're getting new notifications. People have been asking, what are we doing about whether or not students are going to be getting assignment notebooks? And in this case, we recommend students use the calendar app in Schoology. And what they can do is, as things are assigned to the student, those things will populate the calendar. So for instance, what you'll see is in the bottom, where you see the 21st is clicked on, anytime a child has an assignment posted on a specific day, there will be a little dot underneath the date. So they can actually create notes for themselves, or the teacher actually, as they assign things, it actually populates their calendar. So this is a fantastic tool to use, and we recommend that all kids use it. So if we want to find our courses, we have two different options really. If you click on the group button, which is the 3 lines that you see circled, you'll click there and it will open up a whole bunch of different options for you. So some of those options are courses, some of those are groups. Courses are just like it says it is. It's the courses that the student is enrolled in. So you have science, math, social studies. Groups are created by teachers that so that multiple kids from different courses can all be messaged at the same time. So for instance, it's often used in, like I coach cross country. If I have a cross-country group, I can pull those students into my created group called Cross Country, and I can send them content, I can send them meet schedules, things, notifications, things of that nature. That's often how it's used. Lots of teachers, like wrestling, has a group. So it all depends on the teacher and whether or not they want to set up different groups. But in the meantime, most of the kids are going to spend their time in courses. Once you open your course, you have a bunch of different things in the materials index. One of them is assignments, so that's where any assignment that the teacher posts is going to fall under that tab. They also have online tests and quizzes. So the online tests and quizzes are often given, they can do quick polls, like a teacher can just get the pulse of the classroom to find out how students are doing. So they sometimes will give them online quizzes and just get a quick idea of how everybody's progressing. There's also files and links, so if a teacher wanted to send your students some information that didn't necessarily have to be an assignment, they could send that. If they have a packet they want them to look at, sometimes they put those there. They also have discussion boards, so this is much like Blackboard. If the teacher wants to lead a discussion or give a homework assignment, that she'll post a question to the discussion board, and the student's homework will be to reply to that discussion question, or maybe reply to the questions of other students. So that's a great thing. Last year we found that there were some students who would post to the discussion board a question that they had in class, and it was great because we didn't even realize, but the students had created a discussion board for math problems, and they were able to help each other out. So that's great. There's also places that teachers can post web pages, or they can post photos and things of that nature. So once you find once you actually click on an assignment, it will show the tab for view attachments will be turned. So once they click on that, they'll be able to see the attachment waiting for them. In this case, it's a docx, but in 99% of the cases, it will be a PDF. So if the student then touches that assignment, what it'll do is it'll ask what you want to open it in. So they open it. The document opens in a PDF view. They hit the square with the with the arrow pointing to the right in the upper right-hand corner, and it will ask what app they want to open it in. In 99% of the cases, the student will choose Open in Notability. When Notability opens, it's going to ask them, okay, you've just sent me some content. Is this a new note, or is this a new assignment? And then the child's going to click Create a New Note, and then it's going to say, do you want all the pages? And they're going to click OK. Then it's going to open, that's Notability, and that's how the students are going to do all of their note-taking and work on much of their homework. The home screen of Notability looks like this. So the screen that you see on the left is actually where they're working with Notability. So if it opens to a note with all the tools across the top, we recommend students go ahead and click on the library, which is the 3 books in the upper left-hand corner. Once they do that, every note that they get sent will be filed in unfiled notes. So they need to make sure that not to let that unfiled notes folder get too big, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But when they want to create a new note from scratch, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a blue pencil. They're going to click there. The important thing that we let them know is that if you have a bunch of things in your unfiled notes, you really need to make sure you move them into the particular folder for the class. So when your students are looking at their folders, which you could see here, it says All Notes, Unfiled Notes, Welcome, How To. If you look at your student's iPad, they should have science, social studies, math, and all of their classes lined up there, different colors. Once they click on their unfiled notes, they can take those unfiled notes, and by clicking on the piece of paper not the title, because if they click on the title, like in the one you see right below the arrow called Math Grid, if they click that title, it opens up the note. What we want to do is we want to file that unfiled note. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that piece of paper, and we're going to drag it. When we hold our finger on it, it'll move, and we can drag it into its folder. So everyone should be looking at their students' iPads and see unfiled notes 0. We want to make sure that they're keeping organized. If they can't find it, like let's say they filed it in the wrong place and they're looking for it, what they can do is they can use the search function, and once they click on that search function and start typing some of the letters that might be in the note that they're looking for, it's going to find them. So that's a great function. Once they're in the note and they open it up, we always recommend renaming it. So if they click, what they're going to see is a timestamp, and then it's going to be called note. So what we recommend is definitely, first thing you do when you get a note is to give it a name. So you just click on it, highlight it, and you can type the text. Some of the tools that they're going to be using are Notability. The first one that's super important is the T, and that's where they're going to type their text. The one problem that we have with Notability is that by clicking on the T, it automatically wants to start you typing on the left column. So it's going to start all the way to the left, just as if you're starting a new text document in Word or something of that nature. The problem really is going to become when a student is going to get content from a teacher that is like a sheet with some lines on the right side, and they're going to have to read something on the left and type in the right side. So Notability wants to type on the left. It's going to go right over some of the text. So the important thing to do is to have students hold down on that T, and when they do that, it's going to ask if they want to create a text box. They can then drag that text box to wherever on the page that they want to type and drop it in there and type right there. So that's solved many issues for many students. The next tool that you see is the pen. Anything really in Notability, as well as many other apps that you'll see, if you hold down on the pencil, it'll open up a window where you can choose the thickness of your pencil, you can change your color and size. So that's something to remember. Also, the one thing that's not in the slideshow is the next one after the pencil is the highlighter. So that's great when a parent, or when a teacher will send out some content, and kids can then go ahead and choose a highlighter, which they can actually hold their finger on and change the color as well. And they can highlight directly on the document. Then there's the eraser, and of course there's the scissors. Scissors are used to move around content that is drawn with a pencil. So text box you can move around just by clicking on the text box, but if you want to move something that you've drawn or written with a pencil on your page, all you do is choose the scissors and you can circle what you've drawn, and then you can move it anywhere else. Another great tool about Notability is there's a lot of options of content that you could add. In this case, you can add photos, and if you hit the plus and you choose photo, it will ask you, do you want to use the camera on the iPad, or do you want to pull something out of your camera roll? So they can add pictures that they've taken or take pictures that they've gotten off the internet. They can also draw figures. Math teachers like that because then kids can actually draw triangles or circles, and then they can label them with the pencil, and it makes perfect circles. Web clips are sort of screenshots from the internet. So if you want to reference a web page, you can go to web clip, and then you can take a screenshot of a website. And the one that you can't really see off to the bottom really is sticky notes. And kids use this a lot, so they want to remind themselves of something in a note or in a document. What they can do is click a sticky note. They can drop it anywhere they want on their notebook, in their note, and then they can type along. They can just type along with it. Paper, if you look under the gear, or not the gear, if you look under the wrench, what you'll find is that there's different kinds of paper that you can choose. So if the child wants different notebook paper in the background, they can choose that. The great thing about this is they can also choose graph paper. So the graph paper is available in different sizes. Math teachers use this all the time. Never have to worry about forgetting graph paper again. The most important part of Notability is the gear itself. So if you look on the main page, so the page where there are all my classes, science, math, social studies, at the very bottom you'll see a gear. Every student has been reminded more than once that they need to make sure that their gear is set to back up. When the menu opens, one of the options is backup, and they can choose to back up to Google Drive. Every student should have already done this. As a parent, I definitely recommend that you check to make sure your student's notebook is backing up to Google Drive. If it isn't, what happens is by the middle of the year, they will have so many notes in Notability. If that is not set to back up and anything happens to their iPad, everything will be gone. So we definitely recommend that they have that set. As a matter of fact, if I jump back here again, the one thing you need to make sure also is that once you set it to back up to Google Drive, the default is to back up as a PDF. We don't recommend students backing up to a PDF because if for some reason something happens and we need to pull all their content off of Google Drive, let's say onto a new iPad, it will be in as a PDF and they will not be able to edit those changes that they've made and move things around. So what we would suggest is changing that little PDF, and if you click on it, the drop-down option will be saving it as an RTF or saving it as a note. So we recommend that they save it as a note. So now I've pulled content down as a student. I've worked on that content in Notability, and I want to turn that assignment from Notability back into Schoology so that my teacher gets my homework. In order to do that, in the Notability folder, in the file that I'm working on, in the upper left-hand corner of the note that I'm using, there is an arrow, or a square with an arrow. That's the Send To button. When I click on that, I have a bunch of options. In this case, I want to use Open In. If I click Open In, it's going to open up another window, and it's going to say, okay, what do you want to open this note in? Once I click Open Note In, it's going to give me the option to open it in Schoology. What I'm going to then see is it's going to say, well, okay, you want to open this in Schoology, what do you want to do with it? And I want to turn this into my teacher, so I want to submit to assignment. So I'm going to click on the button that says Submit to Assignment. Once I click on that, it's going to ask me, okay, you're submitting it to an assignment. What class are you want to submit this to? In this case, they want to submit it to health. So I'm going to choose my health class. And it's going to say, okay, here are the open assignments in health. Which assignment are you working on? And so the student is just going to click on the assignment that they are working on. The thing that's different about submitting a movie to Schoology is that you have to go about it a different way than turning in a note. So what we recommend is that students go to the assignment. So in this case, the assignment is called Movie. And then what they can do is once they're there, instead of the info, which you see in the bottom of this slide, instead of info being clicked, which is how they submit things from Notability, what they can do is if there's something on their iPad that they want to get to their teacher, they just, instead of clicking info, can click on submissions. And what they can then do is just hit the plus in the upper right-hand corner, and they can choose to submit a photo or video, create a submission from scratch, or if they are storing something in their resources, they can also send that to their teacher. Let's say we want to send a movie. Once you click Submit a photo or video, it'll launch the camera roll. And what they can do is click on any picture that they'd like to send to their teacher or any movie, and they click on it, and then once they click on it, it will create a green checkbox. And then once they see that green check, it means it's submitted. These are just some important reminders that we wanted to stress to parents at the end of the presentation. If you see your student at home without their iPad in the case, please remind them that they are not allowed under any circumstances to take their iPad out of the case. So far, it's been a really good year. We've only had a couple of breaks. None of those breaks have happened because students have removed them from the case. It was a matter of dropping in hallways and things of that nature. Also, we recommend that you absolutely look at your child's iPad. First thing you need to do is make sure that they do not have a lock, a passcode lock. As a parent, you should be able to examine your child's iPad at any point. We want to make sure that there is no lock on it. We have had some issues this year with children not bringing their iPad to school charged. Please remind them that before they go to sleep in the evening to plug in the iPad so it's fully charged and ready to go when they get to school. We haven't had any problems this year about students bringing their iPads to class. The iPad is used every day in every class, even as far out as orchestra and band are using their iPads. So it has not been an issue. It's an expectation here at school, so that's been great. A quick note about Apple IDs and passwords. If you have a student who's in 6th or 7th grade, their Apple ID was created by you. So if for some reason you don't know what your Apple ID is, the best way to find that out is to go to the Apple ID site, and it will ask you security questions that you'll have to answer, or you can have them send you an email. But district technology staff does not know what your password is, so students would have to go and ask you guys who set them up in the first place. If you have a student who's in 8th grade, the district created their Apple ID and password. So all they would have to do is come to the tech lab and we could tell them what their Apple ID and password is. When students are in need of tech support, what they should do is sign in to the tech support app, which is located on their device. It will ask for them to log in with their first and last name with no spaces and use their Google password. And what this does is it lets the district office, as well as the technology staff at Woodlawn and Twin Groves, know that they are having issues. So what they can do is we can track it, and we can make sure that at Woodlawn, Mrs. Feldman, or at Twin Groves, Mrs. Phillips, can be the ones to come down and try and fix the iPad for the student. If not, or if they don't have the ability to fix it, they can ask Mr. Frischman at Woodlawn or Mrs. Mallardino at Twin Groves, and we can see if we can assist. Other than that, district technology staff will then be called in to help with the issue.